the Vikings and the Rams, BJ.
Here we go.
Here we
Monday
go.
night.
Here we go. Sean McVay versus Kevin O'Connell. We have the student versus the master in this one. That comes from BJ. I got to give him credit. I didn't come up with that. But McVay, Kevin O'Connell face off against each other. Stafford versus Sam Darnold. These teams are so fun to watch. The Vikings coming off of a disappointing game last week against the Lions. It felt like the score got out of hand compared to what could have been. But still, nonetheless, they got their asses handed to them on prime time. So I certainly expect them to be a little motivated. Rams, they rested the starters last week. So Stafford and Puka and Cooper and Kyron, they all got the rest that they desperately needed. So that's something to be excited about as well. But yeah, I mean, the story of this game, BJ, is going to be, of course, to your point, the two head coaches duking it out. I mean, it's going to be a battle of tacticals here. Really a game of schematics on both sides of the football, but especially the offenses and how each one can draw up plays and take advantages of these defenses. I mean, if we look at this game, there's certainly a lot of strengths and weaknesses we can talk about on both teams, but just looking at that in retrospect, compared to now, McVay versus Kevin O'Connell, this is going to be a huge game because going back, it's a shitty, cliche, but again, master versus the student, and Kevin O'Connell is going to have to kind of get creative because we've seen no matter how bad the Rams start the year, whenever they're in the playoffs, especially with Stafford and healthy wide receivers and Kyron Williams, they're able to beat anybody. So Kevin O'Connell, this team, he's going to have to rally the troops, get their confidence back coming off of that rough loss against the Lions. They'll be motivated. I certainly believe in that. So heading into this game, BJ, I mean, it's going to be these two teams, these two offensive-minded coaches duking it out. I think according to our conversations before the show, you like to give the nod here to McVay, and I think you have the Rams here.
I do.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Give me your gut feeling on why you.
First, let me tell you this: there's no way the Rams should be in the playoffs based on the beginning of the year. There's no way that this team gets all the way to the playoffs. Their defense has been terrible all year, getting better.
It's insane.
As all of these playoffs,
it's insane. I'll sorry to interrupt, but to your point, Beej, the people were talking about the Rams trying to trade Stafford and Cooper Kupp 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, yeah, they just need to trade him. Get rid of him. Time to go. And look at him now. It's crazy.
I know.
Kudos to McVay because, I mean, he's turned that team around. A really, really rough start. But also, I mean, it's impressive what they've done. And I kind of love to see a team like that kind of give people the double birds, especially the media who's calling or trying to just make up storylines just to get clickbait. It's like trading Stafford and Kupp like that. I mean, maybe if you're halfway into the season and you're winless or you only got 1 or 2 wins, but 4 weeks into the season, they were calling for Stafford and Kupp to be traded. So mind-blowing to me, but impressive nonetheless. Sorry to interrupt you. Keep going. I didn't mean to do that.
You're fine. Yeah, these teams matched up in about mid-season, and the Rams won 30-20, I believe. I will say Christian Darrisaw, their Vikings left tackle, also got hurt, and he hasn't played since in that game, which is interesting. But the comparison that I look at is I see McVay, who's the master, with Stafford, he should be a Hall of Famer. I mean, honestly, he really should. He will be. And you've got the student, Kevin O'Connell, with Sam Darnold, who this is the only year in his NFL career he's been good, which is probably a part to Kevin O'Connell's coaching. So I will say that.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, Sam Darnold might very well be a great quarterback, but it's just
been in bad situations.
Yes, but it's just proof that it really you need to be in a good situation to succeed as a quarterback in the NFL. Whether you have a phenomenal coach that can develop you, or you have playmakers that can really help you out. I mean, it's really, really hard to be a standout quarterback when you're in bad situations. So absolutely, I agree. Kevin O'Connell deserves a lot of credit in the development of Sam Darnold, but kudos to Darnold. I mean, he's responded and he's shown that he has what it takes to potentially be a starting quarterback in this league.
Yeah, absolutely. The Rams are definitely hotter at the moment. The Vikings pretty much got kicked in the penis last week against the Lions. Really interesting because the Lions are so banged up on the defensive side, and they just kind of manned them up on the outside
Yeah.
and said, "Come beat me one-on-one." But as far as, I think the biggest thing for me is the Vikings are, I think, the heaviest blitzing team in the league. If not, they're second or third, but they're one of the top ones. And I really feel like McVay and Stafford's connection to anticipate that, to get the ball out quick and to get the ball into their playmakers' hands is going to really put them at an advantage for some really big plays against the Vikings when they bring the pressure. So
Yeah, I it's going to be fun because I think that we talk about the McVay and Kevin O'Connell from an offensive perspective and how fun it'll be to watch them scheme up a game like this, but we often see, and it's an underrated component of these games, two head coaches going together like this, two offensive-minded coaches, often leads to great defensive performances. We see both of these types of teams. Really, they don't excel on the offensive side of the ball, but they excel on the defensive side of the ball because you're kind of thinking in the same manner. It's like, oh, if it was me, I would do this, and so you relay that information to your defensive coordinator, and it works. And so it's not often, but quite a bit. We see these games in which we expect it to go over, they often go under just because having that offensive minded capability isn't just a weapon for the offense. It's a weapon for the defense and trying to get inside of the mind of what the other coach is going to do. So it's going to be a fun game, just, outside of the lines as well as in between the lines. And it's crazy because I like the Rams in this game too. I love the momentum that they have, but it's just statistically speaking, I have to point it out. I can feel like the Rams are going to steal this win, especially with the momentum the Rams have and the kind of maybe like ego check that the Vikings had. The the numbers for the defensive side of the ball is really what sticks out the most. Minnesota's defense has played really, really good defense. Kudos to Brian Flores, the first overall in EPA per play allowed and fourth overall in defensive success rate. They're phenomenal at stopping the run. Phenomenal. They do give up quite a bit of yards in the passing game, but I think that's partially due to their cover zero defense where they just try to get pressure, often leaving guys man to man and sometimes some bad matchups in the secondary. But their defense has played really, really well nonetheless. They give up big plays, but they do that, I think, knowingly, because they're trying to generate big plays on the defense side of the ball in terms of sacks or pressures on the quarterback. So that's what you're seeing there. Defensive side of the ball for LA defense. 27th overall in EPA per play, 26th overall in success rate. And again, those numbers have improved, believe it or not, from where they were at the beginning of the year. Those numbers were both 31 overall halfway through the season. And so some slight improvement. They have a lot of young guys on the defensive side of the ball, but that's something that we just cannot ignore. They're giving up 7.3 passing yards per attempt, 241 yards in the passing game, 130 yards per game on the ground. And so the big mismatch here, Buge, is the defenses. And so both the offenses, they grade really well. LA is 14th overall in EPA per play, 7th overall in success rate. Vikings, 11th overall in EPA per play and 11th overall in success rate. I mean, it's going to be, there's going to be no shortage of offensive capability in this offense. The model has this game as basically a 1-point spread for the Vikings, 23 to 24 almost if you round up. So while I do like the Rams and I do feel confident about the Rams just because of their momentum, they have both of their elite wide receivers healthy. Kyron Williams is going to be good to go. It's just hard to ignore the stats on the defensive side of the ball for the LA defense and especially the Minnesota defense as well. It's a matchup advantage. And so, it's just, they got Matthew Stafford, they got two elite wide receivers. It's like, man, I think they could still get around that to some degree, especially with all of the man defense that Brian Flores plays. Like, Matthew Stafford is very well smart enough and capable enough to perform really, really well against the pressure. I mean, they have the highest blitz rate at 36%. Minnesota's defense does. So I think that, that's also an underrated component of the game is how well will Matthew Stafford play against a team that's absolutely going to get after him in terms of the pressure. Historically, he's played really well, but sometimes it gets to him. He's very prone to throwing interceptions. He has a high interception rate. He averages almost one interception per game, believe it or not. So just something to note there. I know I just went on a ramble there, but I do like the Rams from a gut feel perspective, but I don't want to ignore some of the stats that favor the Vikings in this game. And that could, be very well the reason that they win. So throwing that out there, just going to let everybody fester on that.
Yeah. One more thing I have to say beforehand is, before we get off here, is that, of course, we have to go based off the stats of the season, right? But those stats are in the past, and they're not what's going to happen. They're not going to predict exactly what's going to happen in this game. And I love what you said. I could totally see McVay going to his defensive coordinator and saying, look, I taught Kevin how to do this. This is what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And so they're ready for him. So I love that in this individual matchup. And it's definitely, well, I would say my second favorite game on the slate, because I really like that Bucs game. But it's good.
Nobody leans into the stats more than I do. Nobody tries to read more into the stats than I do. But I'm telling you right now, the playoff football is different. There's you got to learn how to read between the lines and understand that there's an element to this game that goes beyond just the numbers. And so I think that's kind of what the Rams are here. They're fully healthy on the offensive side of the ball, outside of an injury to Blake Corum. And given that alone, no matter how bad the defense is, they're going to be in a game, And so it's going to be a fun one. I'm really excited about this one. It's going to be awesome. Playoff alone, going to be awesome. We have some phenomenal teams. I would say 4 that are arguably, going to win the Super Bowl. More than capable of winning the Super Bowl. Phenomenal offense, phenomenal defense. So a lot to be excited about over the next few weeks. Guys, we appreciate you joining us on Wild Card Weekend Breakdown.